Professor Shivani. Professor Shivani is a professor and dean at Karnataka Sanskrit University. Professor Shivani holds a PhD in Sanskrit Vyakarna and Computational Linguistics from the University of Kerala and a double master's in Sanskrit and Natural Language Processing. She is both a grammarian and a computational linguist. Presently, she is leading two projects, one on creating a Pali morphological generator and analyzer funded by Pali Institute, Kalapurdi, and second is the editing of Sarva Pratyaya Mala, which is a grammatical treatise authored by Shankara. In addition, Professor Shivani has guided several doctoral students on their PhD projects and also has numerous publications to her credit. A feminist linguist herself, Professor Shivani will reflect and enumerate on the contributions of other feminist linguists like her on the topic language. Professor Shivani, a very warm welcome and over to you.
Thank you very much. Respected Vice Chancellor Dr. M.D. Venkatesh, Professor Neeta Inamdar, Chief Guest of the event, Dr. Meera, Manipal University, Jaipur, Dr. Geetesh, University of Delhi, Sri Srinivasan, Department of Philosophy, Dr. Arjun, and other dignitaries. At the outset, I'm thankful to the organizers for including me in the panel for sharing some of my thoughts on language, literature, and values. I don't call it morality. I want to call it values. We know the women empowerment in India is not similar to the concept of empowerment in West. In West, women is a separate entity and she has to be empowered independently. In India, women is seen as part of a family and she is the base of the family. Therefore, women empowerment is the empowerment of the family, empowerment of the society. Unless women is empowered, society cannot be empowered. Today, we can see that India is the country which has created women prime minister for 2 decades. India is the country where all the fields, including military, have welcomed women as a part of it. Even in literature, in literary creations, we can see the partnership of women. Therefore, I don't want to see women empowerment as a separate one. It is the part of the entirety. My topic here is Vak, which is also in Strilinga. And in Sanskrit, Vak empowerment is given utmost importance. The famous poet Dandi says, Idamandham tamakritsnam jayeta bhuvanatrayam yadi shabdahvayam jyotih asamsaram nadipyate. The 3 worlds would surely be in a blinding darkness if the luminosity of word does not light the universe. So the 3 worlds, here the three worlds mean 3 layers of human life. The body and the energy levels are physical. And the next 3 levels, namely Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. The Manomaya means emotional, self, mindfulness. Vijnanamaya means intellect, means thought. Anandamaya means bliss. That means peace, conflictless, integrated self. So I want to connect the language with all these 3 levels, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. Today, we understand the language as a means of communication. But language is not merely a means of communication, at least in our tradition. It is more than that. So ancient Indian thinkers believed that modeling the language with its connection with the universal existence, the self, thoughts, and liberation. In other words, the Vak, the language, has 4 folds. Chatvari Vak Parimita Padani, Tani Viduhu Brahmanaha E Manishinaha, Guha Trini Nihita Nengayanti, Turiyam Vacho Manushya Vadanti. The Vak has 4 levels, Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari. Para is very subtle. Sukshma, Mooladhara Chakrastha means it is in Mooladhara Chakra. And Spanda Shunya, no movement. It is the universal, all-pervasive principle. The para level is the higher level, consciousness. Pashyanti is Jnana Gochara, Nabhideshastha. Only Jnanis can experience it. So it's concentrated, wishful, it's a thought. Madhyama is a Manogochara. So all emotions, thoughts, everything happens there. That is Hrideshastha. So that is expressible, clear thought and with volition. So that others cannot get that vak, but no, we can feel it, we can know it, we can experience it. So Vaikhari is the Parapratyaksha, the final form of language that is expressed, visible and understandable. That comes out of the mouth. So we, 4 layers are there: Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama and Vaikhari. So Para is very Sukshma and that is called Brahma. So most of us know and hear and understand the only last part of it, means Vaikhari. So the Vaikhari that we speak, analyze, understand, create and play with. But we do not know the previous forms, means Madhyama, Pashyanti and Para of them. So previous forms of the same, which are not visible but are very important to know in order to connect ourselves with the universal existence and values.
Professor Shivani?
I think we have lost the connection. So just let's wait for her to log in.
Yeah, we'll just wait for her. Dr. Shivani, I think will be joining us again.
I'm here.
Oh, she's here. Okay, Professor Shivani, please continue. Just lost you for a bit.
Okay. I'm sorry, my internet connection had some problem.
No problem, ma'am. Please go ahead.
So, Srini, shall I continue?
Ma'am, please go ahead.
Okay. So the ancient seers and knowledge seekers have symbolized the relation of the language with the self and outside world with an analogy. See, Vagvai Jaya. The language is the life partner of the self. The self may expand only through the Vak, like Prakriti. The language is the source of creation. The Prakriti expands the creation through forms. The language expands the creation through names. So Prakriti expands the creation through forms and the language expands the creation through names. In this sense, the entire creation is of two kinds. One is physical form of the creation and the second one is the physical and mental image or mental relation of the creation. So this is possible only through the language. The human being intellectual and emotional, cannot live only in the physical world. Through the matter, the material world is created where we can generate comforts, but not the real sukha, happiness. The happiness which is possible only through peace. The second aspect is the possibility of language world, means universe. So let me explain. Bhartrhari says, the philosopher, philosopher in Indian tradition, नसोस्ति प्रत्ययो लोके यस् शब्दानुगमादृते अनुविद्धमिव ज्ञानं सर्वं शब्देन भासते. सर्वं ज्ञानं शब्देन भासते. No thought exists without the touch of language. No language, no thought. So language, as I said, is a key to universe. We can use the language as a key to open the doors of the universe, because we do not have any direct access to the universe, either through the language or through the senses. So how do I know that there is an object outside? Either I go and touch and feel and test and verify through my senses, or through the language which describes the world. So language is the governing principle. The outside world has no direct access. Only representation exists. I can represent you in the language so that you can understand the world. So there exists a real world, but the representation of the world in my mind is very important for me. It is very, very important for me. So whatever the psychic cognition, the psychic event, if we consider, that is embedded with the language. So without language, we cannot have any cognitive event. All cognitions, that means all cognitions are embedded with the language. So what is Vak? The Vak governs the perception. Vak, we cannot translate Vak as speech or word. No, we cannot translate. Vak is Vak. So all cognitive events are subject to the interpretation through the languages. So language can construct, deconstruct, or reconstruct the meaning of the world. So Rishina Punaradhyanam Vacham Artham Anudhavati. It's a famous saying. So therefore, the entire world is intertwined with the language. This is very important in the Indian philosophy of language. This shows that language is not limited to external communication. Language is a part of all thoughts leading to the intellect and feelings that involve emotions. So with this, what we can conclude is that the language added with emotions and thoughts becomes literature. So, and literature with the objective of universal good, happiness and peace leads to values. So language, literature and values. The world follows the speech. Whatever we speak, the world is created. Through Bhagavad Gita, Krishna created a new world in the mind of Arjuna. The same Arjuna who was fearful to fight against Kaurava, the same army, he became ready to fight against them. So what happened? Just his perception got changed. His entire world, what he was looking at was changed through language. Therefore, we can construct the world through language, and we can deconstruct the world through language, and we can reconstruct also. So there is a term in Mahabhashya, Patanjali's Mahabhashya, Vagyogavit. The person who has control over the language, who knows the essence of the knowledge, is called Vagyogavit. So the sentence is Estu prayungte kusalo visheshe shabdan yadhavat vyavahara kale. So anandamapnoti jayam paratra Vagyogavit dushyati chapashabdehi. So one who knows the word, he wins the entire world. Who knows to use the language, he can win the world. So values do not exist in physical world. They have existence in linguistic world. The principles of nature that integrate the self and the rest of the world for the common good are values. Values like satya, true, ahimsa, non-violence, daya, compassion, etc. The entirety of it is called dharma. So I don't call it as morality. Morality is somewhat the strict, that strict oneself to divide the world into good and bad. Okay, so this is good, this is right, and this is wrong. So that is morality. But that's why I call it as values. So no language, no values. So since language is interpretable and fluid, values are dynamic. Time, situation, context, place, persons will decide the values applicable for the common good. For example, in some context, Satya becomes Asatya and Asatya becomes Satya. Anyways, let us broadly understand its relation in the light of Indian philosophy of language. As I said, Para Pashyanti Madhyama Vaikhari, the Vaikhari, the expression in the form of language is external communication. How an expression takes place, the process is explained by Panini in a very nice way. Atma buddhya sametyarthan manoyungte vivakshaya manah kayatni mahanti saprerayati marutam. Marutaha tu urasi charan mantram janeti swaram. So what is the process of speech? Okay, so the linguistic expression is a product of action. Action means pronunciation. So the sounds are created. So that is also the Atma with Buddhi. So connected to the meaning, and it pushes the manas. So Vivaksha is also involved. Then no, it ignites the Kayatni. Kayatni means body fire, and it triggers air. Then no, through chest, it comes, it goes up, and through mouth, the varna comes out. So without meaning, mere sounds cannot form a language. So we need vak and artha. So vak should have an artha. So without meaning, sound cannot form a language. Okay, so we cannot separate the meaning and the language. In other words, language has two aspects, meaning and the word, vak and artha. So Kalidasa beautifully says in his poetic expression, Vagartha viva samprukto Vagartha pratipakte Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Vak and Artha are the similes for Parvati and Parameshwara. So Ardhanarishwara Sankalpa, who are the parents of the entire creation. Without the meaning and the language, no creation. And word and meaning cannot be separated. With this idea of marriage of word and meaning, we can understand the strong inseparable relation of word and meaning. The language carries meaning, and meaning cannot exist without language. If the expression takes over the meaning, it just remains as a language. When the meaning takes over the language, it becomes literature. When both meaning and the language subside for the universal good, it becomes value. So the language, literature, and values, these three are interconnected. So every language in the world has some purpose. In one sense, some languages are meant for science, some for music, some for business, some for communication, and some languages are meant for dharma. It is said that Sanskrit is that form of the language which stands for dharma. According to me, Sanskrit is not the language, it's not at all a mere language. It is a state of language. Every language of the world, if added samskara, become the Sanskrit. So Sanskrit is a target for all languages. So any language can become Sanskrit. So that creates dharma everywhere. Sans Sanskrit, no value and peace. So Sanskrit is the language of dharma. So it is developed only to protect dharma. So the literature records what is dharma and what is not. See, by literature, we get to know Ramadivat Vartitavyam, na Ravanadivat. So, literature constructs something in our mind. So then we come to know that we know that Ramadivat Vartitavyam, natu Ravanadivat. We have to follow Rama, not Ravana. So finally, in order to achieve the universal good and happiness, we need to work for peace. So we need to work for peace that is possible in the world without conflict. Conflicts can be eliminated only with the integrity. Integrity is achievable when every smallest part of the universe is in alignment with body, mind, and intellect. That is the alignment of language. Using language as a tool, we can align and bring them into peace. That's where the language, literature, and values stand for. Leaving these thoughts, I conclude my speech. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to me to express myself.
Thank you, Professor Shivani, for your thoughts and the emphasis that you laid on language. And I particularly like the fact that you emphasized on how language can construct, deconstruct, and reconstruct all meanings. And now over to the audience. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask Professor Shivani, please do so through the chat box or by, of course, raising your hands and posing the questions directly to Professor Shivani. Yes, I think I have hand raised from Arjuna.
Namaste, Cheji. Namaste, Dr. Shivani. Thank you for this wonderful talk. And I would like to ask one question here. These 4 levels of Vak, which you highlighted, Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikari, is there any particular method for understanding the text, different kind of text? A few literature are there, a few Vedic texts are there. So a few theoretical texts are also available, and also some application oriented, like Prakarana Granthas are also there. So can we apply all those 4 different types in all these variations of the literature, or can you please highlight on that?
So, but actually these 4 levels of Vak, among 4, these 3 are actually very subtle. See, Para, so we have to think how to apply. But Para Vak, we cannot experience, even we cannot feel. That is very, very subtle. Okay. So Para is Mula Chakra. So that is in the Mula Chakra. That even yoga is it's very difficult to understand. Okay. So next level, there no what happens that Vayu, this is air actually. Air no is in very sukshma form. Bindu Rupa we say. Why we call it as Bindu? Because it cannot be identified. We cannot identify that. We cannot experience it. But the next level, no, when the force comes, the Vayu comes up and hits the next, it moves to the Nabhi Desha. That is Pashyanti. There also what happens, the memory and all, no, is stored there actually. According to the tradition, this Bhartahari and Nagesha, so that memory is stored there in the Pashyanti. So there also, that also only yogins can experience it. So there also, see, we don't know that what is vak and what is artha. But vak, artha, everything is there, but we cannot separate. That is, it's one form. In one form, we cannot separate. But again, by force, this comes to the krit. Krit. There, no, what happens there? The meaning vak and artha are separated. Separated, it's not separated, but we can know that. So what is this? No, we in Vyakarana we say karta, karma, and all forms and the meaning that we can understand that in Madhyama. But that's why we can think. Okay, even we need not speak. We can think. We can know. All those things happens inside the this part, Krit Desha. So that is Madhyama part. Again, it goes up to head actually, brain. So Murdha. So then what happens? So after hitting going to the brain, it has some chemical reactions, then coming down, then comes out, and while touching the speech organs, it comes out as a word, okay, sound. That is called dhvani. But actually, this dhvani is nirarthaka. So everything is the meaning and everything is inside the speaker and the listener. Okay, outside world, no meaning at all. But then how to apply these 4 layers of vak in other literature and all, we have to see. I think this Vaikari part only we can directly do, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Shivani.
Thank you, Archana. I think we had a hand raised by Anandita. You may go ahead and pose your question to Shivani.
Thank you very much, Shivani ma'am. I'd like to ask a question in Sanskrit.
Okay.
प्रायः भाषा नाम अस्माकं मनसः आशयः यः वर्तते तत् शब्दद्वारा अभिव्यज्यते इति अहं मन्ये सर्वत्र च किन्तु शास्त्रेषु बहुत्र केचन शब्दाः तत्र विशिष्टा शक्तिः वर्तते केषुचित् शब्देषु विशिष्टा शक्तिः वर्तते उदाहरणार्थं मन्त्रेषु मन्त्रादिना विषपरिहारादयः भवन्ति तेषां विना अर्थानुसन्धानमपि इति बहुत्र शास्त्रेषु उल्लिख्यते शास्त्रेषु नाम वैदिकशास्त्रेषु उल्लिख्यते व्याकरणशास्त्रे तदधिकृत्य अहं न जाने अयं प्रश्नः प्रत्यक्षतया भवतः उपन्यासे सम्बद्धः वा न वा इति तथापि इयं जिज्ञासा वर्तते व्याकरणशास्त्रेषु अस्मिन् विषये विमर्श्यते वा अथवा कथम् अयं विषयः निरूप्यते इति मम प्रश्नः
तत्र वैदिकविषये कथम् इति अहं बहु न जानामि तथापि पाणिनीयशिक्षां पठितवती पाणिनीयशिक्षायां तु शब्दस्य शिक्षाशास्त्रे तु शब्दः कथम् उच्चारणीयमिति सर्वम् अस्ति तथैव क्रियते चेदेव तस्य फलं भवति इत्यस्ति वैदिकविषये बहु अहं न जानामि किन्तु महाभाष्ये एवम् उच्यते खलु यः कोऽपि शब्दः सम्यक् ज्ञातः सुप्रयुक्तः स्वर्गे लोके च कामधुक् भवति इति भाष्ये उच्यते तादृशं वैदिक भाषायां तु स्वरस्य बहु वैशिष्ट्यं वर्तते तत्र वैदिकविषये तत् कथम् एतत् करणीयमिति शिक्षाशास्त्रे अस्ति इति जानामि ततोपि अधिकं कथम् इति वक्तुम् अहं न शक्नोमि
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
Thank you, Anukita. Srini, you had your hand raised. Do you still have the question for Mrs. Shivani?
Yeah, like Rahul, I forgot. I'll just get back if there is one.
Okay, sure. Meanwhile, if there are still any other questions. Meera ma'am, yes, please go ahead.
Ma'am, that was very interesting because I also have started reading a little bit of Abhinav Gupta thanks to my colleague Mrinal, but ex-colleague, I should say. The question I have is that we are interested a lot in translation, ma'am. So, Anuvada. So the question is, where does Anuvada take place in this Vaikari and other categories? Because is it just a Smriti that is operating, or does it come at the level of an understanding that is cognitive more than it is expressive? Because sometimes we understand without Anuvada, we guess the meaning of it at the back. So, what would traditional linguistic in grammar and linguistic and the theory of meaning talk about Anuvada or translation? Because I guess we are the one people who have a word for Sanskrit word for translation. We were already multilingual in the ancient days. We had Sanskrit and Pali and other forms of dialect. So, ma'am, could you enlighten us on that?
Okay, one thing. Anuvada, the definition of Anuvada in Sanskrit is Anuvada, Anu with Upasarga and Vada. Vidhipraptasya Vakyantharena Kathanam. Okay. Vidhipraptasya Vakyantharena Kathanam. Yatha Agnihotram Juhoti Vakyena Praptasya Homasya Dudhna Juhoti Vakyena Punar Anuvadaha. That is the definition in Vachaspatyam about Anuvada. Okay, Anuvadati iti. So, I don't understand. You want to know the definition of Anuvada or
yes,
what?
ma'am. If you could just explain what you said in Sanskrit in English, so some of my students will not understand the definition. So,
see, one is no. We say translation means one language to another. No. So in tradition we say Anuvada. Anuvadati means it follows. See, Vidhipraptasya, whatever is being said. So Vakyantharena. So we cannot say translate in other Vakya, in other sentence. Okay, that is called Vakyantharena Kathanam. So saying in other sentences, in other way, that is called Anuvada. That is the Lakshana of Anuvada in Vachaspatyam.
in some way, what I can see is feminist epistemology therefore becomes an Anuvada. We are saying it epistemology in another way. So it almost gives a sense, that's what I was feeling, it gives a sense of an alternative view, not necessarily the same view. So there is a possibility of us thinking.
Yeah. Here is also same. So Vakyantara means other sentence. We can expand also. Okay, Vakyantara, not in the same Vakya.
It is almost like retelling.
Yeah, retell.
Yes, ma'am. That is very interesting because in what you said, suddenly it struck me that that is a possibility, ma'am. Thank you so much for explaining that.
Thank you, Meera ma'am. Srini, you have your question that you want to pose?
Yeah, I had one question again, but just wanted to also share my thought on what Professor Meera just concluded with. I mean, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to agree with that fact that Anuvada can become an alternate. I mean, particularly when it comes to feminist epistemology or even any other form of language and literary communication through other languages. For example, translations. The term that is here Anuvada has a little different sense, similar to one that it is also embedded in the term Anumana, Anusrutyamana, Anusrutyavada, Anusrutyavadati. So there is a primary language, primary discourse, and the second discourse, the target discourse, is totally in complementing the primary or the mainstream. So then again the alternate would become marginalized. So it's a little tricky to look at everything in that background. Maybe that's my personal opinion. And this is a question, not exactly a question, but this is to, maybe if Professor Shivani would like to answer, it would be nice. The proposition that Kalidasa has made, I think my voice is echoing. Oh, I have followed my advice of my friend Jyoti, but still it's echoing. Kalidasa says, Vagartha viva sampraktau Vagartha pratipattaye. I would like to quote here my favorite writer in Sanskrit drama, Bhavbhuti, who says, Laukikanam sadhunam artham vag anuvartate. Shinam punaradyanam vacham arthonudavate. This is one of the mesmerizing and it gives goosebumps. Horripilates me when I listen to this phrase of what Bhavbhuti puts in his Prathamanka of Uttaramatharita. Now, in this presentation, यदि भवती लौकिकानां साधूनां अर्थं वा अनुवर्तते, ऋषीणां पुनराद्यानां वाचमर्थोऽनुधावति इति इत्यस्याः भवभूतेः सुतेः अभिप्रायः वाचः प्राधान्यम् अर्थस्य न, अर्थस्य प्राधान्यं वाचः न, एतादृशं विवादं एतौ कालिदासस्य सूक्तिः, एते कालिदासस्य सूक्तिः एवं भवभूतेश्च सूक्तिः प्रतिपादयतः वा?
हा, एतत् ऋषीणां पुनराद्यानां वाचम् अर्थमनुधावति इति खलु श्रीनि? न, तत्र एकं तु सामान्यं वयं किं वदामः, तत् अर्थं मनसि निधाय वदामः, किन्तु ये आप्ताः, so that's why I'm taking it apta means one has control over the language. Okay, so सः एवमेव वदति चेदपि तत्र अर्थम् अनुधावति, अर्थ पृष्ठतः गच्छति इत्यर्थः.